All right, let's go on to the next question. What characteristic, attribute, philosophy, belief separates you from the other four candidates standing with you? What characteristic, attribute, philosophy, belief separates you from the other four candidates standing with you? Mr. Stutzman, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. You know, it's really, you look at all five candidates, and like I said in my opening remarks, people say, well, what is the difference? There are differences. There's a lot of similarities, but there are differences. I think one thing that I believe stands out more than anything else from me is that I'm a farmer. I grew up on a farm, a family farm. My dad's over here. We're a fourth-generation family farm. My granddad passed away about 2 years ago, and I learned hard work on the farm and knew how to cut budgets. We didn't have the opportunity to raise taxes to make additional revenue. We had to go out and either work harder or find a way to cut spending within our own business. And that's unfortunately what we have in Washington, is we have too many career politicians and people who don't understand how to cut spending and that have gotten us into this huge mess of $12 trillion worth of debt, continual deficit spending. And I think that it's time that we send a small business person who understands what actually creates jobs. Government doesn't create jobs, folks. It's the people, Americans, is what creates jobs.
Mr. Hostetler.
The difference is, once again, a record that reflects the fact that I have made the difficult decisions in the past. We're not talking about not voting necessarily for a new program. We're talking about major reductions in spending on previous programs that are already in place and not raising taxes to do it. You know, on the state level, most recently with regard to unemployment insurance, rather than making the difficult decisions of reducing spending in order to cover the problems created by the unemployment insurance compensation program on the state level, the legislature voted to raise taxes more than at any time in the nation's history against business. It's even so bad that now they are considering delaying its implementation or even repealing it altogether. I never voted for a tax increase, and I won't. In fact, I realize that if you cut taxes, the economy will grow, and the economy will grow and create jobs, and we don't need to raise taxes to cover more government spending. Thank you.
Mr. Coates.
Do we use our lifelines later?
End.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Coates, you're up.
Age. Just count. Does laughter time count against me?
You were waiting for the pause.
And the experience, the judgment, the discernment that comes from serving in the Army at a time of war, serving in Congress at a time of war, serving overseas representing this country at a time of war. The judgment and experience that comes from making mistakes, from learning from those mistakes. I don't think my beliefs are different. I can only speak to my own beliefs. Faith, family, and freedom have been the guiding lights of my life. Those lights are shining as bright as ever, and they will shine as long as I have the breath to speak and stand up for those beliefs.
Mr. Bates.
Doctor, let me just say quickly before I answer the question, I'll stay within the 60 seconds. I hope in the midst of the rhetoric and the finger pointing, we will all remember that we are running as Republicans in a Republican primary, and whatever we do, we have to win this seat back in November to stop Barack Obama. We have to. My regards for all of these people. Let me just say this. When I mentioned almost 50 years of political experience on this stage, only 3 of these gentlemen encompass that almost 50 years. I wear it as a badge of honor, but I'm not a politician. And in one of our debates, one of my colleagues said that we can't afford to send somebody to Washington who doesn't have any political experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I would submit to you it was political experience that got us in the mess we're in. And so I wear that as a badge of honor. And having said that, I believe the nominee is going to have to be able to do 2 things. I'm a proud Republican, maybe disenfranchised, but a proud Republican. You've got to be able to woo Republican voters. At the same time, we have to reach out to disenfranchised Republican voters, and I believe we're effectively doing both. And I think that sets our campaign apart.
Mr. Maney.
I guess it's time for a YouTube moment. out my campaign. I think the main difference is these guys, they want to be senator. I don't. I'm just ticked off. Busy with my life, taking care of my business. That was my dream, to grow my business and take over the plumbing world. You know, and it's gone crazy. You know, we live in a great country. I come from the other side of the tracks. Marlene grew up on a farm. I grew up in apartments. Broken family. No money. Shopping at Goodwill. But in this country, with hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, and a dream, you can get it done. Now, there's no promise, and you can fail. I have failed. I grew a company from my kitchen table nationally, lost it all in a hostile takeover. Lost everything except my marriage. Grown another company, my plumbing company. I've created more jobs than these guys put together. Government does not create jobs. Business creates jobs. The government allocates creates jobs.
Time for additional information, Mr. Sussman.
All right, thank you. Congressman Hostetter brought up the tax increase on businesses, but what he failed to also recite was that there was a tax cut for businesses who don't use the unemployment insurance, because the federal government mandates, is an unfunded mandate to the states to take care of unemployment insurance. So when you have businesses out there that continue to subsidize salaries with unemployment insurance, we were put in a situation back in 2001 where they lowered the tax or the premiums on businesses. It's just like insurance. It is what it is. If you use it, you pay for it. They lowered the premiums on business, and they increased the benefits for employees. Well, what happens when you start doing this? We took the responsibility and did what the states are supposed to do, rather than waiting for a bailout from the federal government, and we did what we thought was the right thing, and by increasing the premiums to those people who use the unemployment insurance system more, and we cut the taxes for those who don't.